Vittoria stood in the ruins of what had once been the heart of Dominic's empire, the mansion now reduced to smoldering rubble. The sound of distant sirens echoed through the air, but no one dared to move closer. The streets were empty, save for the wreckage, and the sky was a heavy gray, as if even the heavens were mourning the destruction. Dominic was gone, lost in the chaos of the explosion. For a moment, Vittoria thought she might never see him again. But then, through the smoke, she saw a figure emerge, tall and commanding, moving with a purpose that only Dominic could carry. His eyes, dark with fury, locked onto her the moment she stepped forward. "You still have time to change your mind, Vittoria," he said, his voice like ice. "But the cost of silence is too high. The city is dying, and you're the only one who can stop it." Vittoria shook her head, still trying to process the madness of what had just happened. Elias, the rebel leader, had disappeared, and now the city was falling apart. Dominic's rage had torn through everything, and she was caught in the middle of it. She had always known there was darkness in him. Everyone did. But now, she was starting to understand just how deep that darkness ran. "I don't know who to trust anymore," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the distant sounds of destruction. "You're not the man I thought you were, Dominic." The words hurt as they left her mouth, but they were the truth. She had followed him for so long, believing in the vision he had painted, in the empire he promised to build. But now everything felt different. Everything felt wrong. Dominic's expression softened just for a moment before hardening again. He took a step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "And what do you want, Vittoria? To be free of me? To walk away from all of this?" She didn't answer him immediately. She couldn't. Deep down she knew the answer. But it wasn't that simple. She had seen what he was capable of. She had seen the way his power twisted the city around him, and she had seen how the curse he carried was slowly consuming him, turning him into something even darker. "I can't walk away," she finally said, her voice trembling with the weight of her words. "I'm already in this, Dominic. I can't leave you now." He studied her for a long moment, as if trying to read her thoughts. Then with a single motion he reached out and gently touched her cheek. The contact was brief, but it sent a shiver through her. She had never felt such a mix of emotions, desire, fear, confusion, all swirling together inside her. She was drowning in him, in his darkness and his power, and she couldn't find the way to escape. "You still don't understand, do you?" Dominic said, his voice low and gravelly. "The curse that's been placed on my bloodline, it's not just a curse, it's a promise. A promise that if I don't fulfill it, everything I've built will fall. The city, my empire, my life, all of it will be destroyed." Vittoria's heart skipped a beat. She had heard the rumors, the whispers of the curse, but she had never truly understood the depth of it. Dominic had never spoken of it so plainly before. "The man you were sent to find," Dominic continued, his gaze hardening. "Elias, he's the key to breaking the curse. He's the one who can save me or destroy me. And now he's gone, vanished." She didn't know what to say. The weight of his words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Elias was the one man Dominic had been hunting for years, the man who held the key to his salvation. But Elias had disappeared, and with him any hope of breaking the curse. "I don't care about the curse," Vittoria said, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. "I care about you. I care about what's happening to you, Dominic." Dominic's eyes softened again, but only for a moment. He closed the distance between them and took her hands in his. His touch was firm yet gentle. "I can't protect you from this, Vittoria. The curse is too strong. It's already claiming me, and when it's done there won't be anything left." A tear slipped down her cheek, but she quickly wiped it away, unwilling to show weakness. She had fought too hard, come too far to give in now. But the battle was only beginning, and she could already feel the weight of the choice she was about to make. "Then let me help you," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Let me be the one to end it. Together we can stop this." Dominic's face twisted with a mix of grief and fury. "You don't understand. The prophecy says that the one who loves me will be the one who sacrifices everything to break the curse, and that sacrifice will destroy everything we've built. It will destroy you too." His words hit her like a hammer. The idea of losing herself, of giving up everything she had for him, was terrifying. But she couldn't walk away. She couldn't abandon him now. "I'll risk it," she said, her voice steady. "I'll risk everything, Dominic. For you." Dominic's face hardened, and for a moment it seemed as though he might reject her offer. But then, as if defeated, he let out a long breath. "You're too much like me, Vittoria. Always ready to sacrifice yourself for something you believe in. She didn't know what to say to that. Instead, she stepped closer to him, closing the gap between them. She was no longer just the assassin in his service. She was something more. And if that meant risking everything, she was ready. I don't care about the prophecy, she whispered, her lips brushing against his. I care about you. Before he could respond, there was a sudden noise, footsteps heavy and fast approaching from behind. Vittoria's instincts kicked in. She pulled away from Dominic and drew her dagger, spinning to face the new threat. In the dim light of the ruined mansion, a figure stepped forward, a man cloaked in shadows. Elias. You're too late, Dominic growled, his voice low and dangerous. You've already lost. Elias smiled, but it wasn't a smile of victory. It was something far colder. No, Dominic. You've already lost. The curse is only beginning, and soon it will claim everything. The city, your empire, your life, nothing will be left. Vittoria's grip tightened on her dagger. She knew the man before her was dangerous. But Elias wasn't just an enemy. He was part of the puzzle that had kept Dominic trapped in this endless cycle of darkness. We'll see about that, she said, her voice calm but filled with determination. Elias raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. You think you can stop it? You think you can save him? I don't think, Vittoria said, her eyes locked onto his. I know. Cliffhanger. Just as the tension between them reaches its peak, the ground beneath them shakes. The building groans as if it is on the verge of collapse. The curse that has been haunting Dominic's bloodline begins to stir. The walls crack and a deep, otherworldly voice echoes from the shadows, promising that the end is near. With nowhere to run, Vittoria stands firm, her dagger raised as the storm inside the mansion erupts into chaos. Vittoria Fiore had never been afraid of the dark. Growing up on the harsh streets of the city, she'd learned long ago that shadows were safer than the light. It was in the darkness that she could move unnoticed, where she could slip through cracks and disappear. But tonight the shadows felt different. Tonight the streets felt alive with something more than fear. They were alive with the presence of Dominic Rossetti, the Mafia boss who ruled this city with cold iron hands. The city trembled at the sound of his name. Dominic Rossetti was not a man you crossed. His empire stretched far and wide, but few people truly understood the depths of his power. It was whispered that he wasn't human, that he was something far darker, something ancient, the way his eyes could pierce through you, the way he moved like a shadow. Those whispers weren't just rumors. There was something to them, something that made the bravest men hesitate to meet his gaze. But Vittoria didn't hesitate. She never had. Her loyalty to Dominic had been forged in the blood of her enemies and the silence of the underworld. She had served him for years, a weapon, a shadow. Her hands were stained with the blood of those who had dared to challenge him, and she never questioned the path she had chosen. That was until tonight. Tonight, everything changed. It had started as a simple mission: track down a rebel leader who had been stirring up trouble in the city. A man named Elias, a ghost from Dominic's past. The moment Dominic's cold, silencing gaze had fixed on her, she knew this wasn't just any mission. He wanted something more. The weight of his gaze, the quiet command in his voice sent a shiver through her spine. You'll find him, Vittoria, Dominic had said earlier, his voice low and rough, like the growl of a wolf. And when you do, you'll bring me his name. It was the name that haunted him. The name of the man who had wronged him long ago. A name that still echoed through his bloodline, a name that was tied to a curse. Vittoria didn't understand it all. The curse, the shadows that seemed to follow Dominic, the strange way he moved like he was in two places at once. But she didn't need to. She only needed to follow orders. The rebel hideout was hidden deep in the heart of the city, tucked away behind abandoned warehouses and dark alleyways. Vittoria slipped into the shadows, moving like a whisper through the streets. She was close now, closer than she had ever been. The air felt thick with danger, and she could hear her heartbeat thundering in her ears. When she found Elias, he was waiting for her. Standing alone in the middle of the dimly lit room, his eyes locked on hers, a faint smile tugging at his lips. You're looking for me, I take it, Elias said, his voice smooth, almost mocking. Not for long, Vittoria replied coldly, her fingers tightening around the handle of her dagger. But Elias wasn't afraid. He stepped closer, his gaze never leaving hers. You should ask yourself why you're really here, assassin. You think you're working for a man who controls the city? But what do you really know about him? Vittoria froze. The words stung like a knife twisting in her chest. She hadn't expected him to know about her, about Dominic, but something about his calm demeanor unsettled her. There was something dangerous about his presence, something she couldn't quite place. "Tell me where he is," she demanded, trying to shake off the feeling creeping up her spine. "I can tell you where he is," Elias said, his smile widening. "But what if I told you that your master is a lie? What if I told you that everything he's ever told you is a lie?" Vittoria didn't reply. She just watched him, her grip on her dagger tightening. She had no time for games. Elias's eyes gleamed, and for a moment she thought she saw a flicker of something ancient behind them. "He's not who you think he is. He's cursed, Vittoria, a man whose bloodline is bound to a prophecy that will destroy everything he's built. That's why you're really here, isn't it? You're not just an assassin. You're his pawn." Vittoria recoiled at the word, pawn. It hit her like a slap. No one had ever dared to speak of Dominic that way, not even in whispers. She could feel the rage boiling inside her, the need to silence him, but something in his eyes held her back. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice low, but the anger in it was unmistakable. "You think I'm the only one who knows the truth?" Elias said softly. "You think Dominic hasn't been hunting me for years because I hold the key to his curse? His name, Vittoria. It's all in his name. You should ask him about it. Ask him who he really is." Before she could react, a sharp noise rang out, a sound like the crack of thunder. A bright light flooded the room, blinding her for a moment. When her vision cleared, Elias was gone, vanished into thin air. Vittoria's heart pounded in her chest. What had he meant? Who was Dominic really? Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten, the first rays of dawn breaking over the horizon. The city, once vibrant and full of life, now felt silent. The streets were empty, the air heavy with anticipation. Vittoria's mind raced as she made her way back to Dominic's lair, her thoughts tangled with what Elias had said. The closer she got to him, the more she realized that something was wrong. Something bigger than she had ever imagined was unfolding, and she was caught right in the middle of it. When she arrived at the mansion, Dominic was waiting for her. His presence filled the room like a storm about to break. He didn't need to ask her about the mission. He already knew everything. "Tell me his name," he said, his voice low and intense, the words like a command. Vittoria looked at him, the weight of everything hanging between them. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, a sudden explosion rocked the mansion, shaking the walls and sending them both stumbling. Through the dust and debris, she saw Dominic's face gripped with rage, his eyes burning with a fire she had never seen before. "We're not finished, Vittoria," he growled, "not by a long shot." The sound of sirens began to wail in the distance, but it didn't matter. The city was already lost, and Vittoria, standing on the edge of a path she couldn't turn back from, had just learned the truth. The battle was only beginning, and the price of silence might be more than she could bear. Cliffhanger. As the smoke cleared and the city began to burn, Dominic's hand reached out for her. "Tell me his name, Vittoria," he repeated, his voice now a low growl. "Tell me, or watch this city fall."